Frankie Edgar, my favorite fighter, and Jose Aldo, which is relevant. Two legends, two future Hall of Famers, two veterans in the same weight class at the same time, but they made similar statements from opposite sides of the world. Frankie out in New Jersey, Jose out in Brazil. They made the same statement, only 24 hours apart. And that was, I'm thinking about being done. The end is approaching for me. Now, Jose was a little bit more open in terms of, I'm not ready to be done. I'm not backing down. I'm on a title run. But I do understand my time is limited. Frankie's was, I'm going to do one more fight. And they're both interesting. They're both helpful, right? I mean, imagine how I felt. My favorite fighter said he's just going to fight one more time. It means I got to go find a new favorite fighter, right? I mean, it's one of those things. I'm not going to die as a fan. I got to go somewhere else. But how many of you did I just represent? Right? Frankie's got a real base. Frankie's done some incredible things in the sport. To have a big final fight, to have a send-off in a ceremonious moment, you must telegraph. You must do what Frankie just did. Ric Flair has sold out an arena for 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks in advance, a $2.2 million gate. It's going to be his last match. I mean, those are a big deal. In our sport, it's tough because this is promotion. Promotion is chess. It's a story. It goes on. It builds over time. It climaxes. It's very relevant. If you're an event planner, you can play checkers. You can go find a way to get Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson in there. Save all your money and talk about it for the next 30. I mean, you can do that. You can go get Dada and Kimbo. You could do something one night. And sometimes you got to do that. The UFC is just not in that position. So I do bring it to you because whatever Frankie has next, it's going to be tough. That's just the way that goes. Nate Diaz is not retiring, but he is leaving the organization. It's the same thing. He's currently a 12-1 underdog against his next opponent. You guys understand these things. I'm stating the obvious for you, but what maybe isn't so obvious is the reverse of this. Okay? Rumble Johnson, when he retired, told nobody. Nobody until he told Joe Rogan in front of the world. He even made that as part of his speech. He looked right at his team in corner and said, they don't know this is coming. I'm catching everybody off guard. But now, Rumble Johnson's last fight was a main event for $1 million for the championship. There is nobody who's ever retired and told us ahead of time that could fit any single piece of that criteria. That their last fight was a main event. Absolutely not. That their last fight was for a title. Their last fight was for $1 million. If they told us ahead of time, now there is always a timeline here. There are exceptions. If you understand this, you get the bout agreement. The fight is done. Prior to the match, you make that announcement. Very different because it's already done. If you make the statement before the bout agreement, I can just go back one day and tell you what happened with Nate, who's a 12-1 dog. You're going to have it stacked against you. It's going to be tough. Now, Frankie had a great idea. Frankie called out Dominic Cruz. And Frankie had this whole thing figured. I mean, he wants to go to Madison Square Garden. He wants to send off. He wants his friends and family to be there, right? His name was one of these great things. I could understand fully why Frankie would want that. I hope that he gets it. But I think you can understand my point, too, where where's the motivation to give it to you? And now you want Dominic Cruz. Boy, that fight makes sense. Frankie Edgar versus Dominic Cruz. That makes a lot of sense. Jose Aldo versus Dom has been the one that I've personally been pushing for. And I'm all alone. And I don't know why. I know you guys want to see it. I don't know why you don't back me up publicly. I wish that you would. But I'm only sharing with you. Now let's take a look, because that makes a lot of sense what Frankie's saying. You bring a New Yorker in. He's owed some favors. He's done a great job. You put, he's asking for a venue. He wants to be in a build. Yeah, sure, give it to him. Of course. Bring him a match. You bring it down. You got the WEC. I mean, you got all these different tie-ins. Makes all the sense in the world, but you got to get Dominic to agree to it. Why would Dom agree to that? Dominic is not at the same point in his career. And physically and time-wise, whether he is or not, he hasn't flipped that switch mentally, therefore he's not there. That's a mental choice. So now you get Dominic to agree to it. Dominic has been very clear, I'm only going to do things to bring me closer to a championship. Taking on a guy who's doing his last fight does not do that. And I'm not trying to rain on Frankie's idea. I'm actually trying to bring it to your attention and get us to kind of group together as a group that isn't going to quite follow history on this. We're going to do a favor for a legend who's asking for one. Let's get him as close as we can get on this. And maybe there is something there for Dom. Maybe Dom said, hey, man, I'll make the exception. You're Frankie Edgar. Been wanting a piece of you for a while. This is the last chance. I'm going to get it tonight. I mean, right, you don't know what Dom's going to do. I'm just bringing to your attention that it is different. Jose Aldo wants a title run. I think he's on one. The fact that he announced that the finish line is somewhere within sight, what does that do? Because he's not looking to promote against himself. He's offering you an urgency. It's important that you do this. A good coach will put a guy in this mindset. You do not have 3 years left. You are not a sophomore that gets to try this again next year and the year after that. You're done. I'm pulling your eligibility. This is your last tournament. I'm releasing you. This actually happened. Tom Brands did that to one of his guys. They were trying to make an Olympic team, but they probably had 2 more cycles left in them. Tom said, no, you're done after this year. I'm ending your career. This is it. And boy, did that guy start training. Boy, did that urgency change. So that's all Jose is attempting to do. He's attempting to create an urgency for himself. I like it and I understand it. I just also want to offer you the other side, that we're in an industry, we're in a business where there's practices that you can look back on. As recently as 1 day ago when Nate, it's 12-1, right? I'm just suggesting that for you. And you juxtapose that against what Rumble did. And the only other example that I could give you would be when Khabib did it. He told nobody he's going to get to 30-0. Everybody knew this. He gets to 29-0 and he pulls the plug. But they also built an arena in his honor. They had leaders of countries coming in live to, it was a very special thing that might have changed if he said goodbye. We watched Tyson Fury just do it as a fake goodbye. Tyson's not leaving. But he hustled a crowd in his home country and brought in 93,000 people to send him off. So there is an art to it. There's a way to do it. And I'll share the Dominic Cruz and I'll share the Frankie story on the heels of Kayla Harrison. Now, I find myself to be a Kayla defender. I met her one time and she did not see me like that. She didn't love some of the stuff I had to say, but I don't think she listened close enough. To tell the Kayla story, you got to tell it real fair, which is I'm aware if you guys watch Kayla in the media in short things, if you read her clips, if you get it in very short, you're not going to like her. She's not overly likable. But I will share with you, she doesn't make great impressions in those. She means something else. She doesn't have time to set up the context. There was an interview that Kayla did with Steven Crowder. You can go find it. I'm not going to discuss what they talked about. Go watch that interview. You will never look at her the same and you will never cheer against her again. I really believe that. But that's where you get to know her a little bit and you know these other things. Look, Kayla just came out and did this. She's with the PFL. She's flirted leaving with them. She has no loyalty to them, which she has made crystal clear. She sees that as some kind of a power. That one I don't get. And she's getting a whole bunch of money, but she's not making the money. She's taking their money. I've never done that. And I would tell you my ego wouldn't let me. I've never done business with a guy where he didn't make a whole jackpot full of money. And my ego, I would never have felt good about that. You're getting your ass kicked because I got you to make a deal, so I'm a good businessman? A lot of people would say, yes, I'm sharing you on a personal. I wouldn't do that. Kayla is taking a bunch of money. She's not bringing it in. This is not a partnership. This is not 2 ways, and she's not pretending that it is. But she has now come out and said she's not going to come back to the PFL after this tournament is done. Release her today. That is the answer. There is only one. You're in the business of promotion. You must be very disciplined to only enact policies that are sustainable. If somebody is leaving you, you cannot promote them. You are now an event planner. You've got these one nights. You've never broken even on her. And the money and the marketing that it's going to take to do just isn't worth it if she's gone. So let's cut our losses now. Let's do this publicly. You made it public, so let me come back in public and remind you of who's in charge. Whoever signs the front of the check is in charge, and it's still me. And here's your pink slip. Read the contract, sit down with your attorneys. If I owe you something for breaching the contract, bring it forward and we'll talk about it. But you saying you're going to leave after you fulfill this, I see as a breach. We're done here. That is the only way to handle that. She sees a different... I don't think she should be mad at me when she sees me. I really don't. All I've done is just tell the story that she put out. That's it. I've done nothing else. I am sharing how the promotion should handle that. Whoever writes the check is in charge. Period. Whoever signs the front of the check is in charge. Whoever signs the back of the check isn't calling the shots. The moment that is not crystal clear, you've got to go. But when you go, we're going to do it public. So that Coker and Dana know when they make their offer, they're not being competed with. That is the play. That should have been done prior to me ever sitting down and making this piece.